I'm going to talk very briefly about my PhD topic and some of my findings. So my research focuses on an 18th century Ottoman medical miscellany in Judeo-Arabic and Hebrew, containing texts of 3 medical treatises and a glossary of medical terms in Judeo-Occitan, which is a very, very unique phenomenon for such a manuscript. Although the volume has been copied during early modern times, the originals from which they were produced date back to approximately between 10th to 14th centuries. All 3 tracts are written in Judeo-Arabic and only with occasional parts in Hebrew by authors working in Baghdad, Egypt, and Persia. The volume begins with a work on an art of phlebotomy composed by a distinguished physician from Sinjar, Al-Akfani. The treatise is mostly unknown to academic scholarship, besides some useful information recorded in manuscript catalogs and bibliographies. Next in order is the text on the Canon of Medicine by Ibn Sina, and among 3 scientists whose works are studied for this paper, he is definitely the most prominent. The third treatise is the magnum opus of Ibn al-Zarbi, a physician, philosopher, and a famous astronomer, where he describes physical and mental illnesses. And lastly, in the 4th part is a medical glossary in Judeo-Occitan. The medieval Hebrew synonymal literature is a typical Sephardic tradition, which can be traced back to the flourishing period of sciences in Al-Andalus, where multilingual glossaries of this type written in Arabic alphabet were an important textual genre to which Arabic-speaking Jews made fundamental contributions. After the 12th century, however, this lexicographic praxis seems to have almost disappeared from Arabic writing for obvious historical and cultural reasons, but the tradition of Arabic-based medical botanical glossaries had passed to Sephardic Jewish authors and compilers who already in the 13th century, but in particular during the 14th and 15th centuries, left a wealth of mostly Arabic Romance glossaries written in the Hebrew alphabet. These glossaries were compiled in the territories where Sephardic Jews had predominantly fled to during the Almoravid and Almohad invasions, northern Spain, and in particular Catalonia and the south of France. The Romance languages that are reflected in this text are therefore mostly Catalan and Occitan, and to a minor degree Castilian and other Ibero-Romance varieties. The language shifts from Arabic to Hebrew and Romance languages among Jewish doctors was the main reason as to why the use of Romance languages was a common phenomenon in Hebrew glossaries of this type. Another reason was that during Middle Ages, southern France and its language played a significant role in medical science due to the medical schools of Toulouse and Montpellier and the strong presence of Jewish physicians and scholars. For this reason, Old Occitan medical botanical terminology is documented both in Latin and in Hebrew characters. The linguistic analysis of the manuscript revealed that the 18th century medical register retains mainly conservative orthographical, syntactical, and morphological features, as well as show how obviously the medical register differs from utilitarian prose and from religious texts. Additionally, it was very surprising to see the similarities existing in the 14th century Arabic and the 18th century Judeo-Arabic text, except for the occasional causes when some verbal changes were found. This shows, firstly, how little the medical texts were adapted to early modern audiences in comparison to the translations of the sacred text, and secondly, the education level of the intended audience of the medical works. Also, my survey, which of the Geniza medical manuscripts, which I made for this paper, shows that roughly 90% of the medical documents are from medieval period, and only a much smaller percentage of these manuscripts date back to post-medieval period, which are almost exclusively composed in Hebrew. The percentage of post-medieval Judeo-Arabic medical manuscripts is conspicuously smaller, which makes the study of this manuscript even more remarkable. Firstly, placing it in the wider history of medieval medical treatises and manuscripts of the Geniza would challenge the entire narrative of having post-medieval medicine transmitted only in Hebrew. And secondly, the linguistic analysis of 3 different texts bound together into a single volume would expose the peculiarities, the degrees and the nature of linguistic variation of early modern Judeo-Arabic medical text. Thanks a lot. And this was about my research on the medical manuscripts.